All right, so Brandon, why don't we jump right into it? First off, you've got a great name, so that always helps. But in all seriousness, what market do you sell real estate in, and how long have you been in real estate?
Yeah, I'm in the Northeast Georgia market, about an hour and a half above Atlanta, Gainesville area. And I got my license in 2016. That's when I got my real
2016.
estate license. Yeah,
Got
so
it.
almost 7 years.
Yeah, I love it. So for context, we're shooting this interview at the end of 2023. How do you like from a production standpoint? How will you end up this year in 2023?
And so I should end out with 25 closings, um, and going to bring in right at 150 grand.
Got it. Love it. It's awesome. So let's kind of backtrack. I want to work our way back up to present day and talk about maybe some of the ups and downs over the past 7 years. When you first got into the business, there's so many voices, there's so much coming at us. What were some of those early struggles when it comes to client acquisition? Like, what did you try in order to be successful to generate new business?
Yeah, so what I did right out the gate is I started buying Realtor and like Realtor.com and Zillow leads. So working mainly just a lot of buyer business, running like crazy, all kinds of hours, working 7 days a week. I mean, I'd get a lead, I'd be in a shower, I'd jump out the shower and call them, immediately. Um, so, that was an eye opener and a learning experience there. I did join a team for a little bit, and his main focus was giving Realtor and Zillow leads, but no direction on, how to do a listing appointment. I remember going to him one time and saying, "Hey, what do I do, for my presentation?" And he pretty much didn't have an answer. He was just like, "Hey, if they want to list with us, great. If not, that's okay too. Just go to the next one." And I'm like, "Wow,
Wow.
okay, I got to do something different here."
Yeah. So when did you decide to transition into focusing on becoming a listing agent?
Yeah, here in the past couple of years, I've really started leaning more towards that, and really started more focus on it once I got with you about 6 months ago.
Sure.
And that's helped tremendous. I quit taking buyer leads, internet leads. And since I've been with you, I've done 12 transactions and made about 78 grand in the past
Yeah.
6 months.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So let's talk about the last 6 months, because that's why I wanted to have you on here. What is it that you've been learning that we've been working on that you feel as though has made the biggest difference for you? I know there's a lot, right? I know we work on a ton of stuff. Maybe we'll break it down in a minute, but like keeping it high level, what are maybe a couple things, Brandon, that you could share with the audience that has made such a difference in your business?
Yeah, the main thing is verbiage and, doing the reverse selling process and being agreeable. Before I would find myself just going back and forth with the prospects on the phone. Like I'd be trying to close them on the phone of why they should list with me. And it never works at
No.
all. I mean, so just doing your process and being agreeable has just made my business so much easier, so much more fun too, and just get way further with clients than I did before.
Yeah. So it's really the sales skills that you're learning, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so let's break down the business. Let's first start off. What lead sources are you working? Where are you getting most of your business these days?
Yeah, so I use Vulcan 7, and I'm doing for sale by owners, expireds, and I do circle prospecting. Mainly, most of my business is coming from FISBOs and expireds right now.
Yeah, yeah, got it. And so your business now, are you buying any leads these days, or is it just all purely direct outbound prospecting?
Direct outbound, no buying leads. No,
So
I
your
quit doing that.
so your profit margins have gone way, way up. Is that right?
Way, oh yeah, way up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's nice. You get to keep a lot more money than you maybe were before because your margins probably what 80-90% these days.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love
Hmm.
it. So it's all direct outbound prospecting for the audience standpoint, they've heard about, yes, I know I've got to make my calls, I've got to prospect, but it's a overwhelming thought to say the least. What first off, how long are you prospecting every single day?
So I'm prospecting from 8 to 12. So from 8 to 11, I do all my new outbound prospecting. And then from 11 to 12, I go back in my follow-up folders and start doing my follow-up. So most of my transactions come from follow-ups.
Yeah, yeah, I bet. And we're going to talk about that in a second too. So when you're prospecting for, 8 to 11 before you start doing lead follow-up, how many new prospects will you typically talk to?
Usually I'm averaging around 7 an hour. It's
Yeah.
usually what it comes out to. And it just depends. Sometimes if I'm going back through my old expireds, I may not have quite as good contact rate because I've been hitting them for a couple of weeks. But that typically on average is about seven.
About 7 an hour. Yeah. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So you're talking to 20, 25, 30 people a day. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, just that alone between doing that and what you were doing before, just because you're having so many more conversations with homeowners has dramatically increased your business. Is that right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And
Yeah.
my skills and my confidence and just the way you train us to do things, it's made it more fun and less frustrating. And the other day you said something about, you know, if you're prospecting from 8 to 12, instead of looking at doing it all day, like if you don't have an appointment, go do something different, go knock on doors, go meet some people. So that excites me. Like, yeah, that's, my afternoon. If I don't have an appointment, go knock some of these expireds, go knock some around my listing. And I
Get
like
up, move around, go see people, like go into the community and start to prospect that way, right? Because we're all just trying to have conversations or trying to get into conversations with people. So, you said something that I totally agree with, Brandon, which is, I think the way most people prospect, when they pick up the phone, they're filled with fear, they're filled with doubt, they don't know what they're going to say. You talk a lot about skills. Specifically, what are some things that you've learned that has helped you to become a better prospector, set more appointments, and generate more leads over the telephone?
Yeah, just don't kind of not go against the grain with them. When they do give an objection, to see, hey, that makes total sense. I completely agree. And then pivot into your question or your pattern interrupting your question. So that's helped tremendously because before, I would be more get into it with them.
Yeah,
I'm
you
a
wanted
bad
no, it was just back and forth, right?
back and forth, back and forth. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's what's being taught. I mean, that's how most scripts are written, right? They say
Mhm.
this, and then you come back with this, and it's like this tug of war, and it's like who's going to win, right? And so now you've learned a method of communication that allows you to have much better conversations. Is that right?
Way, way better.
Yeah,
Way better. It's better for the prospect and for me.
yeah. So talking about results for a second. So if you're talking to call it 25 people or so a week, or a day, and you're having 100, 125, 150 contacts per week, how many seller leads does that typically yield you every week that you're able to put into your database and follow up with?
Yeah, it probably comes out to around about 25 to 30 a week leads
Yeah,
that I'm getting from that I would actually either put in my nurture or warm or hot folder. And,
yeah,
that's one big huge thing that's really helped me is, before I'd be all scattered all over the place trying to keep up with these leads, but doing your system and following it that way has been so helpful for me.
yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, going back for just a second, 25 to 30 leads per week. I mean, we're talking about 100 leads per month, right? Is typically what it
Mhm.
ends up being. They're all listing leads. And if you were to buy 100 leads based on what you knew before, I mean, how much do you think that would have cost you? Do you remember how much you were paying per lead roughly?
Oh man, you're looking at $50 to $75 a lead.
Yeah.
Easy.
So you would have been at $5,000 to $7,000 a month for what you're able to produce now just with your skill set, correct?
Oh yeah, for sure.
And pay nothing for it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, and
huge.
still have to cold call them once you get the lead after
That's
paying for
right.
it and hope it goes well.
That's a great point. Yeah, not only are you having to pay the $5, 6, $7,000 a month to get the lead, but then you still have to pick up the phone to even get a conversation for it to go anywhere. That's a great point.
Mhm.
So you said most of your appointments are coming out of lead follow up, which is typically the case. What does your follow up system kind of look like? I know we talked about the folder system here just for a second, but when you generate a lead, typically what do you do from there to turn that into a listing appointment?
Yeah, so they're either going to go in my nurturer, folder, which is going to be a little further out, say 6 to 12 months. And then I got a warm folder that's going to be more 90 to 90 days and 120 days or so. And then one that are ready within the next week or two go into the hot folder. And those I'm following up with pretty much on a daily basis, or at least every other day, whether it be call or email. And then my other ones is a weekly, every Monday, giving the warm leads a call, and the nurturers are a monthly call.
Yeah. And so pretty much your all your lead follow-up is just based on phone calls. You're not doing anything else, no fancy, you're not doing anything outside of phone calls. That's where most of your results are coming from, is just voice to voice conversations. Is that right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
the only other thing I do too is as you instructed, I do, as soon as I get off the phone with them, well, after my calling session and all, I go in and write them a thank you card for speaking with me. And I got a whole stack of $1 lottery tickets, and I put that in there and mail it to them.
How often do you see those at the appointment when you go? Isn't it nice to see that kind of on the table when
I
you get
have
there?
seen them before. Yeah. And I get comments, about it, and thank you so much. And that was really cool. And
That's
yeah.
awesome. That's great. So
And of course I send my resume and all that.
Yeah, your pre-listing packet, all of the stuff. Yeah, I love it. Let's transition to the appointment, Brandon, for a second. So you've transitioned your business almost 100% to a listing-based agent. You said at the beginning of this conversation, at the beginning of your career, you didn't even have a presentation. You went to the team leader at the time, and he wasn't able to give you a presentation. So what does your presentation look like today? I mean, you don't have to go through it, in great detail, but yeah, give us an idea. Do you have a presentation today? Is it working, and what's working about it?
Yeah. So, I do your presentation that you taught us how to do. And it's just very structured. I have a nice format spiral folder that I take with me, and it just helps me stay on track and go through all the different steps with the client. And, it's made me to where I look forward to doing a presentation now.
That's
Like I
right.
got something, I know what I'm going to do. Whereas before I would be kind of freaked out before I would go. It's like, man, what am I going to say? What am I going to do? And I would just wing it. And it was terrible.
Yeah, yeah. So do you have a favorite part of the presentation that you really look forward to, that you say, wow, I enjoy having this conversation. I'm good at it, and it helps me to win business?
Yeah. Well, for one, going through, the pricing strategy and price bracketing, I
Yes.
really like that. It really makes you look like you know what you're talking about.
Mhm.
And then getting into the Savvy Seller program and our value proposition, I think those would be my favorite parts. And, you're almost at the closed end too. So, that's helped a lot.
Yeah, I love it. And as far as, just to help maybe some of the agents that are listening to this, when it comes to pricing, a lot of sellers want to overprice their listing. They all think their house is worth more than they really are. When a seller brings that up to you, how do you typically handle that conversation?
Yeah. Just pretty much getting them to tell me why they think it's, is so much more valuable, and,
Hmm.
going back through the comps with them and letting them explain to me why, and why that price is important to them.
Yeah.
And if they won't budge from it and we're pretty close, I'll typically go ahead and list with them, knowing that, hey, if we don't have any offers in the next 2 to 3 weeks, what should we do at that point?
Yeah, I love it.
Let
And you're
them
getting
tell
them to
me.
tell you. Yeah. Smart.
Mhm.
And are you presenting a net sheet at every presentation? Are you going through the numbers so they can see it?
100%,
Love
always.
it. Yeah. Awesome. So, as you kind of look ahead into 2024, what's the goal for you?
Yeah, so my goal is to net 300,000. And with my business plan, that comes out to 50 transactions. Um, so of course it's more because you teach us to, that's what I want to net. So I got a gross 416.
Sure.
So those are what my numbers are off of.
So what's going to be the difference? What's going to be the thing that takes you from where you are now to what you have to do next year?
Staying focused and going through the process every day. I've finally gotten my mind, and learned. It's took me a long time, but just do the process. Before I would get so upset, like if I didn't get an appointment that day or calls went bad, and you can't look at it like that. Just get up every day, do the process, and the results will come.
Yeah, it's great advice. And, I guess I'll ask you, if you could rewind the clock 7 years ago and you saw yourself coming out of that testing center, you just got your exam, you passed your exam, what advice would you give yourself knowing what you know now?
Go coach with Brandon for sure.
Well, thanks for
Definitely.
that.
Yeah. And get, have a coach, have a mentor, somebody to guide me along that process. And don't, forever I just try to do it on my own and figure it out on my own. And that's not the way.
So I'm interested about that. What made you 7 years into the business say, all right, I need a coach. I'm going to invest in coaching. What was it that finally got you to make that decision?
Yeah, I was just so up and down with my business. Didn't have a structured plan that I was following. And was seeing that, I wasn't getting nowhere on a lot of these calls. I was getting into it with I call a lot of FISBOs, and, it just wasn't working out. Man, there's got to be a better way. And, I started seeing your videos on YouTube, and every morning I work out every morning, and I would listen to them every single morning, like the whole time I was working out. So, after doing that for a little while, I was like, this is definitely the way. And it all made sense. And, watching your live calls, watching your students do live calls. And so I was like, I got to get into that.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's been a return there for you.
Oh, shoot. There was a return right off within a month. I made all my money back with a FISBO that a realtor was doing. And
Wow.
I can tell you this real quick.
Sure.
I'm going to take a second. So I noticed that the number was a Chattanooga, Tennessee number, and I was even hesitant about calling. I looked it up, and I figured out it was a real estate agent. And I was like, oh, Lord. So I called her anyway, did the script, and I said, okay, guys, we talked for a minute. I said, well, let me ask you, if for some reason it hasn't sold the next few weeks, would you even look at other options at that point? She's like, what do you mean other options? Kind of took an hour second. I was like, well, like me taking the listing and getting it sold for you. And she was like, well, maybe. I was like, okay. So I put her in the follow-up system just like I would anybody else. I do my calls on Friday like you teach. Let them know if anything comes up. I'm here to help. I'm working all weekend. Well, that Sunday, she sent me a text and said, Brandon, I think we're ready to list the property. Can you give me a call? Wow. So I called her and I was like, hey, what's going on? She was like, yeah, I think we're ready to list. She goes, those realtors in Georgia can be rude. And I was like, oh, what do you mean? She was like, well, the last one I talked to, I told her that I already had somebody in mind. And she said, well, good luck with that. So the lady said, well, I'll tell you what, how about you send me over your resume and I'll take a look at it. And the agent goes, well, I don't have a resume. She said, I can send you a flyer. And the lady, her name was Beth. She's like, no, I'm good. I got somebody already. And it was all because of the resume and then just following up a couple of times. And so it more than paid for the course. That was a $12,000 commission.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, listen, I appreciate it. I know you dropped a lot of nuggets on this podcast, and we thank you for doing that. And I'm looking forward to maybe doing this again with you at the end of next year. Because you got an exciting goal. $300,000 in income probably puts you in as one of the top income earners in your city, right? Right up there with the orthopedic surgeons and the dentists. And so that's a really exciting goal. And why don't we plan on that? Let's have you back on the show a year from now and see how things go. But I'm looking forward to continue to working with you. It is a true pleasure when someone's as coachable as you, who does the work, who gets the result. So we appreciate you very much.